Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler review for Season 1, Episode 9 of Silo. So this episode of Silo was really interesting and had some huge mysteries that were kind of teased for us that I found to be at first shocking, and then I was like, of course. And I am being very presumptuous in my presumptions of what I think these mysteries are teasing. And of course, I could be totally wrong, but the first big one is we get a little keychain thingy that glows red, and Bernard's like, that's bad news, and it has a little 18 on it. And at first I was just like, what? I don't know what to make of that. It kind of felt like a weird calling card situation where like the higher ups, like his boss, was like ringing him. It's like, you know, like you see your phone, it's like got lots of messages from your boss, and you're like, it's my day off, I don't want to have to answer, but I got to answer. It had that kind of vibe, so it feels like it's his bosses of whatever. And then we find out that the hard drive that's got all the mysteries essentially in it, it's like the mystery box of the show essentially in like actual physical hard drive form, and it's got all the things that Bernard I guess keeps to show all like the lackeys he's got on the computers to do all the spying and the surveillance and stuff. So he's got like that presumably that's what the hard drive was for, otherwise why is there just like a box with all the secrets? That's what I have to presume it's for, that they use it to kind of like, if they indoctrinate someone to be like a surveillance person, a bad guy, as it were, which I still think there's going to be a twist on that. And so this magical mystery box hard drive also has the number 18 as its serial number. And so I guess I have to presume that like they're connected, and that feels like it's connected to his bosses or whoever's up in charge, if it's some kind of god deity, but it's probably just a man with a lab coat and glasses being like, I'm your boss. And so what I think they are hinting at is the fact that this will be the 18th silo, in that there might be 25, 50, 100 silos, or probably just a really weird arbitrary number, like there was 135 silos at the beginning of time, or whatever, you know. So that's crazy, and it was that big moment of like, whoa, I can't believe that. Whoa, what an amazing kind of expansion of the world, potentially. And then suddenly I was like, Of course, this won't be the only silo, because then we get to go to another silo, and it's just a slightly different color or whatever, and we can use the same sets as Season 1 and Season 2, but just like, I don't know, color corrected a little bit differently. So I can definitely visualize that for seasons going onwards. What that does raise, though, in terms of questions is like, why have so many different silos? Obviously, I'm taking a huge leap and just presuming that's what the number means. What else would the number mean? Why else name it like 18? It just feels very specific in that there must be more. So like, why have them be all separate and not be able to communicate with each other? I'm not really sure what the point of that is, unless of course you just really cannot go outside, even though that feels like that's got to be a trick of some sort as well. So this episode ends, and Rebecca Ferguson and her drug dealing friends or whatever, those guys, they're drug dealers or something, they all are watching the video of George, and George is like, hey, sexy darling, I actually did love you. I was using you, but I love you. And whilst that is sweet and nice, and I'm like, good for our main character, she found out all those fears she had, but he did love her. Obviously, he wasn't going to be like, I was using you, and you still suck, and I hated having sex with you, you're ugly. She's charming and sexy and amazing. Of course he loved her. I just felt like that wasn't necessary. It was good for her character, but for me as the audience member who just wants some goddamn mysteries to be explained, I was just like, George, shut up! There is not much time in this episode. I don't want to wait a week. Explain something. Give me some kind of reveal and or revelation. Just shut up about your love, George. It's nice and all, but goddamn explain something, please. And I think that anger stemmed from the fact that he started the video and he's like, hey, I've got some mysteries to be revealed. And then you could just see in the background that guy's wife just like unchaining herself, and you're like, oh, I like that she's got some agency and she's got out of the situation for herself. Good for her character, but she's gonna stop the mysteries being said. Timing, woman. And so the second time it happened, I'm like, oh, if we don't find out something sweet and juicy to really, you know, chew and stew on for the week, I'm going to be furious. So then he does kind of say some words and stuff, but it's vague and kind of nonsensical and frustrating. If I was Juliet, I'd just be like, what? That's not clear at all. He's like, there's a big door down there and you got to get in that door. But don't worry about the water. It's not what you think. Why are you being so cryptic, George? Just explain. Be like, it's very shallow water. I have to presume that what he means is the water is shallow and it's not what they expect because it looks very, very deep. But I'm only presuming that because I understand how water works and I understand what like he might mean and suggest. She is terrified of water. She's not even going to touch the water. She hasn't seen a body of water like that. Like it's, I don't know, he's so vague. It just kind of infuriated me. I can't imagine how infuriated Juliet was, but she was also probably like still very lovey-dovey over the fact he did love her. So I don't know. I think in hindsight, she's going to be like, that was cryptic and vague and didn't need to be, George. But then George does give a little bit of actually good information in terms of solving this goddamn mystery. And she watches the video of whatever character's name from earlier in the season and she goes out and we see that it's green and lush and she's like, yay, everything's good. And I'm like, finally all the characters, or at least our main character, my main character and two random drug dealers have caught up to what we've known for ages. But I think there must be some kind of twist on this. Like, I don't know, it just feels too obvious that like what we're seeing in the displays is like fake and they've like CGI'd it or whatever and they've created it looks like a desolate Mad Max apocalyptic wasteland situation, but in fact it's all just green and fairy tales and birds fluttering everywhere and all that nice stuff. But like, why? Like, if the world is just great, why put them in the silos? It still doesn't really make sense to me. And I think, at least for me, the most interesting thing would be if somehow Bernard, leader of Silo 18. That's right. I'm just going full down that theory because what else makes sense? And so he is going to be like in charge and it's going to be revealed that he in fact is not a bad guy because for the whole season he seemed clearly the bad guy behind it. Last episode he's like, I am in fact the bad guy. You didn't see that coming. And presumably everyone in the audience was like, no, we did. We're just so relieved that you finally revealed yourself. Obviously bad guy character. And so the only way that all of that kind of works for me is if he in fact is not a bad guy and they actually do need to keep all the people in the silo. I don't know why that would be. I really can't figure out a reason why that would possibly be. But for me, I feel like that's the most exciting and interesting way forward if the silos are necessary. If they do need to stay inside these silos for whatever reason. I mean, I don't know how crazy and insane this is going to get. Like, I would love if, like, Juliet escapes and she's like, I'm going to free the people. And it is all beautiful and lush. And then she goes outside and then she's like, oh my God, there are giant, elephant-looking aliens. And they're like, get back in the silo, ant creature. And she's like, what? And, we find out that the world is run by aliens and they need to be in the silos. Otherwise, they'll just be killed, even though the world is nice. Like, I don't know how crazy nonsense it could get to reveal why they need to be in the silos. But I feel like something in the realms of just making it that Bernard keeping them in the silo is keeping that silo safe. Like, I'm just imagining what if Juliet goes out and for whatever reason, that silo is destroyed. And then the story is about the other 17 or 100 silos or whatever. And she realizes she shouldn't have escaped. Or something along those lines I think would be really interesting. Otherwise, I feel like this is just going to be one of those shows where it's like, oh, they keep us caged up in this silo and then we break free and now we're just free in the golden green fields of lovely butterflies and birds chirping. And that just feels, I don't know, I just can't understand why they would ever put them in there if there wasn't some real reason. And I wonder if maybe for some reason what we're actually seeing, the people's like vision as they leave the silo to like clean, is somehow like distorted so it just kind of looks nice to like trick them. I don't know why you want to trick them though. I guess there's like a weird like, you thought it was nice and then you died, which just seems odd and cruel and unnecessary. Like some kind of weird twisted final meal before like execution or something. I don't know. I am so confused with how I feel like it's going and where it may go or what the mystery, what like the answers to these mysteries might be. I feel like so many theories and thoughts and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I just really hope that all our bad guys aren't actually bad and it is for the greater good rather than being like, it's for the greater good. And then you're just like a normal person with a normal brain. It's like, clearly that's not for the greater good. And they're like, oh, actually, you're right. I am the bad guy. And you're like, okay. I've seen this story 100 million times. So, yeah, I think I just wanted to feel a little fresher and different. I just think that first, it's almost generic, just the way they're all trapped in this silo and, oh, it's bad outside, but maybe it's not. I just think I just want there to be something else. And yet I cannot seem to figure out in my brain what I would like. I think I do want it to be aliens that look like elephants, though. I think the dumbest and most insane idea I've had in terms of what it could possibly be is that this is just the Truman Show, but like on a grand scale, and they just like are contestants, and every time someone goes out to clean, they're actually just like being like evicted from the game show. So it's like a game show / reality show, Truman Show situation. And yeah, I know that's insane and stupid and probably wouldn't be very satisfying. But also, wouldn't it? The Truman Show's pretty good. I feel like that on a grand scale, where it's like that, but also Hunger Games or something. Yeah. That's the only one that in my brain I'm like, I would actually probably enjoy that. And I feel like a lot of people wouldn't. But maybe that's like my ego, where I'd be like, I called it. No one else did, because it's insane and dumb and bad? Is it bad? Is that bad? It's probably bad, because this is a thought I had for 3 minutes while watching one episode of the show. But it's mostly because I watched Truman Show this week, so it's like rattling around in my brain. It probably doesn't make any sense, but I want it to be the Truman Show times a million. Another thought I had is the silo going to be kind of like, because they've got like the levels, and there's been kind of talk amongst like inside the silo of like, oh, we're just down in the bottom, we're just bottom barrel guys, the mechanics or whatever, and the people at the top were like, we're just hoppity-doopity scientists. I'm saying that poorly, but there's essentially like a class divide situation kind of thing. So I wonder, is that going to be like actually like the main theme, and she goes outside and there's silos like in the sky floating, and they're powered by the silos underneath, and these are like the poor man's silos, and they're like the rich people's silos, and it's like every single dystopian thing you've ever seen, but like with silos, some in the sky, some on Earth, and the Earth is in fact poisoned, maybe, or something. I don't know. There's so many different ways it could go. I just hope it's something crazy and new that we've not seen before. I'm curious what people think and how people think it's gonna go, or what they think is gonna happen when Juliet inevitably does escape the silo. Like, what are we gonna see? Because in my mind, we're just like, I don't know, I just don't want her to go outside and then there's just a bunch of ragtag people who are like, we're the rebels and we've got to get back in the silo and free the people. And it's just that. And Bernard just is a bad guy, and he's got a boss, and that guy's just a bad guy. I would just love if they're the good guys. I don't know how you flip that, and I don't know how that works, but that's, for me, that's like, whoa, that's what I'm hoping for in the finale. But I think we're just going to get, like, her trying to escape, and then the last scene is her seeing what is outside and being like, oh, outside is this, and it, like, pans, and we get, like, a frame of it, and then it's like, boom, cliffhanger, season 2. And I'm going to be infuriated. Generally speaking, as an episode, this is one of the stronger ones. I really, really enjoyed it. I think it started off really poorly because Juliet just jumps off the balcony and lands like a floor down, and then just gets up and is totally fine. And then they just like run down the stairs, which would have been like quicker probably, because like they're not getting up after almost breaking their legs. I mean, I know she's fine, but she at least just like gets up and pretends she's not fine for a second to give us some kind of suspension of disbelief. And then she runs away and she escapes. And it's like, what? How do you escape in a place like this? I know we only get a little bit with the sets we get, but I just can't really fathom how you escape, especially in that situation. And she's just, so it started off a little rough. I'm like, oh, I don't like that. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of this episode of Silo.